Hey everyone, a couple of days ago during the Xbox Developer Direct, the game Hi-Fi Rush made its debut and I was instantly fascinated by the trailer. I was even more caught off guard when they announced that the game would release later that day right into Game Pass. So once the presentation was over, I went over to Game Pass, found Hi-Fi Rush, and gave it a download on the Xbox Series X. A quick side note, because the game is so new, I'm not going to mention anything about the story so I don't ruin it for you, and I'm going to do my best to only show footage from the first half of the game so that I don't spoil too much of the game. If you missed the trailer, the game is a rhythm action game that just oozes charisma. Typically, in a video game, the first thing you're going to notice is the visuals, and while that is the case, the fast-paced action and the fantastic music are so in your face that the bright, vibrant colors almost get pushed to the side. Everything flows to the beat of the music. Attacks, dashes, parries, even cutscenes are animated to the beat. And if that's not enough, the environment all throughout the game moves to the beat, making the world feel like it's a living, breathing organism. The set pieces are bright and colorful locations which are a joy to traverse, but as actual levels, they are rather linear. They do contain hidden areas where you can find pieces for upgrades or in-game currency. In that sense, the game is rather similar to something like Ratchet & Clank, where you defeat the enemies or break the crates to find the gears, and the game does a decent job of making you feel like you should spend the time finding all the money. Not only is it not a very big burden to break all the crates, which helps keep you moving forward in the level as you collect your cash, you're going to need as much of it as possible to buy new attacks and the different upgrades. While the level design and crate smashing is similar to Ratchet & Clank, the combat is entirely different. First off, basically all combat takes place in designated areas within each level. Because of this, the levels do feel like they're sectioned off into combat areas and platforming areas, although going from one to the other is seamless in terms of the visual design of the level. But the level design isn't why you're here. If you watch the trailer, then you most likely want to know about the gameplay, and specifically about the combat. Well, the combat is extremely engaging. I beat the game on normal difficulty, and I definitely don't think I mastered it at all, although I definitely got better as the game went on. The unique aspect of the combat that prevents this from being a generic hack and slash is that, at the most basic level, attacking on beat gives you a bonus and allows you to perform combos. Now, if you have no rhythm, then don't worry. You can still just mash the light and heavy attack buttons, and the game will automatically swing your weapon on the beat. The only thing is, it won't register your attacks as being part of a combo because you weren't on time. This allows you to actually screw up, not really lose a step, and then keep going once you get your rhythm back. Finding the rhythm is actually fairly easy too, as you can of course use the beat of the music, but if you prefer visual clues, they're all over the screen. The environment can be used as a metronome as the trees or lights move to the beat. Your cat companion is a constant tracker for you as you'll always know where it is, and if you want an even bigger one, you can toggle on or off a bar on screen to help you if you desire. Now, if you're really good at keeping a beat, and as you progress through the game, you're going to unlock more abilities, and they can all be used off beat, but again, will get you a bonus when performed properly. If you mistime your dash, you'll do it once, have to pause for the following beat, then you can try again to get it right. If you time it appropriately, you can dash up to 3 beats in a row, giving you a decent bonus to your movement. But not only are your attacks performed on beat, but the attacks from the enemies are as well. So if you can time everything, you can predict when you need to dodge away or parry an attack. This creates a predictable, yet incredibly satisfying flow to combat when you can move to and from enemies while dodging, parrying, and attacking with combos. The game, basically the entire way through, introduces new mechanics at a pretty steady pace, keeping the combat from feeling too repetitive, as you're going to need to learn how to incorporate your teammate assists against larger enemies or parry minigames in order to prevent taking massive damage. Honestly, as someone who typically isn't a big fan of rhythm games, this is actually some of the most engaging combat I've played in a very long time, and I think it works incredibly well. Now, the rhythm aspect to the game is great in concept, but if the music didn't flow, then the game would be a massive letdown. But personally, I think the music is fantastic. With a mix of licensed music from bands like Prodigy and 9 Inch Nails, and original songs created specifically for the game, I think it all flows together, it all fits the tone they were trying to convey, and it's all mixed in a way you can easily refine your rhythm if you get lost with your timing. Scenarios like having the music toned down and pick up when you dash appropriately helps you know you did it right and lets you instantly know you can try again for your second or third dash. The developers also understood the current video game landscape, and there's going to be a good amount of people who wish to stream the game. So they created a streamer mode which replaces the licensed music with original tracks that should give the streamer no issues with copyright strikes. Obviously, this is a game that is centered around the music and rhythm, but I should still say I think they did an amazing job tying everything together and making the game feel like a full, complete music-based experience. They weren't shy about it, they picked a gimmick and ran with it, and I think it worked really well for them. One thing about the current video game landscape that the developers probably weren't expecting is the discussion online about certain types of dialogue. As for some of the dialogue in Hi-Fi Rush can sound like the dialogue that everyone seems to hate from Forspoken. While I haven't played Forspoken, so I only know what the general online conversation about it is, I personally didn't mind the dialogue from Hi-Fi Rush. I found that it fit the characters. The characters' personalities were set up enough for me that when certain lines were delivered, I felt like it fit. I do understand how it could bother some people, and I understand how some people might think it's hypocritical that Forspoken seems to be getting dunked on, but Hi-Fi Rush seems to be getting a pass for its dialogue. But all I know is that in the context of the conversations the characters were having, I had no issues with how Hi-Fi Rush portrayed their characters. Those moments were also decently spread apart, so I never felt like it was a constant thread throughout the game's dialogue. But I will say, I definitely noticed when they would say a line that made reference to how something is just like a video game or something of that nature. The dialogue, for the most part, showed off each character's personality, and yes, that even includes the robots. Having them complain about mundane tasks or wanting to take a nap in a break room were touches that made me feel like it was a fully realized world, even though it was mostly robots instead of humans, which is credit to the voice actors. I actually didn't have too many issues with the game, but that doesn't mean it was perfect. As the game went on and I would enter a fight, there was a few times where the screen just became a little too convoluted. And yes, I understand that it's in part my fault, as I was able to switch fast enough and have multiple teammate assists appear on screen at once, along with all the enemies and their attacks. But I did find it almost to the point where I would lose sight of my character and all the mayhem of fire, electricity, bullets, shields, and everything else on screen. I also found that as I was realizing I was closing in towards the end of the game, I wasn't going to have nearly enough money to buy all the attacks or upgrades, which in theory is fine, but because I clued in so late, I probably didn't purchase or use over 50% of the available moves. Had I known that earlier in the game, I would have picked my unlocks a little differently. I just assumed that everything would be unlocked by the time the game was over, but that was definitely not the case for me. Yes, I am aware that I could sell the moves I learned in order to buy some new ones, but I was so late in the game, I didn't really feel like changing my moveset was the way to go at that point. I also did notice a couple of frame drops throughout the game. It happened maybe 3 times total, but they were 100% always in cutscenes and never interfered with gameplay. I never noticed my timing get thrown off because of input lag or frame drops or anything of that nature, because that would completely ruin a game that is centered around keeping a steady rhythm. By the time I saw the credits, it took me roughly 11.5 hours as I tried to find as many collectibles and smash as many crates as I could. I assume that if you rushed through the game, you could probably see the credits around the 8 or 9 hour mark, which doesn't include any of the post-game content. Honestly, I had a really good time with the game. I thought the trailer was intriguing when I first saw it, I was surprised when I found out it was out the same day, and the game surpassed my quick expectations. It's not perfect, but it took an extremely interesting concept and managed to incorporate it into an already established genre, and that helped the game be a unique experience. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, I think this is a great game to try. With elements of 3D platformer, hack and slash, and rhythm games, and at a relatively short 8 to 12 hours depending on what you want to collect, it can be a really good change of pace between any of the big name franchises that are set to release shortly. And there we have it, my thoughts on Hi-Fi Rush. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up. It really helps out a lot and it helps others find the video. And if you want to check out my thoughts on another 3D platformer, then be sure to check out this video right here.